Joining me now to talk a little bit more about Clark Gillies, the man, is our good friend and our colleague here at the NHL Network, Butch Goring, who does the Islander games on MSG and also was a longtime teammate of Clark Gillies, part of those 4 Stanley Cup championship teams in the early 80s. And Butch, I'll start by maybe you could talk a little bit to the viewers about Clark Gillies, the man, as opposed to the hockey player. We could talk about him a little later, but just about the man that you got to know as a teammate in that locker room.
Well, Brianna described him pretty well. I'll tell you what, she didn't leave much out, and that's really the way it was. He was always just a happy-go-lucky guy, and very very jovial, and we ended up having pretty good friendship from a lot of Legends hockey. After we stopped playing in the National Hockey League, so we spent a lot of time together on the road. And as I said, he was my roommate for when I originally got to the Islanders, and he was there to make me feel as comfortable as possible, and that's what he did. I mean, in his own little way of talking to people. And one of the first things he said to me is, "Butch, just go out and play your game. Nobody will bother you," and he meant it. So as good a guy as he is, he wanted to win, and whatever he needed to do, he was going to be part of that. So, I already think about him every day. I mean, just the thought, EJ, of not being able to see this guy and just to have conversations with him, have a beer with him, play golf with him. I mean, because again, it's, he just made everybody feel so comfortable. I mean, there was never any awkward moments between Clark and myself. He was just such a wonderful person, and to play in his charity golf tournaments and to watch him fold like an accordion when he got around young kids that needed help was amazing. I mean, to have, that kind of feeling for people, and it was genuine. There was no phoniness about Clark when he talked about his charities. He was well meant, he was sincere, but at the same time, he was this really grateful person, and he just wanted to help people.
Butch, you came to New York and to the Islanders and made a home for yourself on Long Island, as Clark did. And maybe you could talk a little bit about his impact on Long Island. Again, aside from the hockey, it just seemed like he was a presence in that community, and a big presence.
He really was, and he's one of the few people that, when he got here and drafted in 75, I believe it was, 74, 75, he didn't go home. Like a lot of guys would go home and have summer cottages and keep their summers to themselves and their family and friends. Back in this case would have been Moose Jaw, but he didn't do that. He established himself right away. He wanted to be a Long Island guy. He joined Huntington Crescent Golf Course, spent a lot of his time out there, met a lot of people. And if you know Clark, he's like a social butterfly. I mean, he can start up a conversation with anybody and make everybody feel comfortable, and well documented that he would tell jokes, and he just every time he met someone, he always had time for him. It's not like he'd shush them away. I mean, some athletes don't want anything to do with the public. Clark was one of those guys that was the complete opposite. So little wonder, after particularly with the success that the Islanders had, little wonder everybody wanted to be around Clark Gillies, and because he's a good-looking guy, and as I said, very personal. So he couldn't go anywhere without someone knowing who he was and what he was about.
Well, he was also known as someone who liked to have a good time, and he was a little bit of a practical joker. And I heard he got a hold of your clothes one time, your pants one time. They were giving you a hard time about jeans or something. Maybe you can relate that story.
Well, he was a practical joker. There's no doubt about it. And if you fell asleep on the plane, he'd cut your tie. You had to wear a tie. So, and any other chance that I know they did cut my pants one day because I might have had some holes in them, or I might have had them, or I might have said these are my favorite pair of jeans, and that was a mistake, because if you went on the ice, Clark, and what was I going to do? Was I going to beat him up? No, not at all. So, EJ, I will tell you a funny story about Clark, and this is kind of his sense of humor. Really, is that, he was called Jethro, and we all know, who Jethro was in the Beverly Hillbillies. But I used to call him stupid, and people would ask him, why does he call you stupid? He said, I'm not sure, but even worse is I answer. So, so that's kind of how he was, and so yeah, he could give it, and he certainly could take it.
Butch, let me ask you about now the on the ice part of this, because you come from the LA Kings, and Al Arbor, who was a great coach, for years it had been Trottier centering Bossy and Gillies, and when you come and some other changes, they move things around, and you oftentimes ended up playing, at least in those early days, with Gillies and with Dwayne Sutter. What was it like to look over and see Clark on your left side?
Very, very relaxing, and I didn't have to take it for granted that he was going to take care of me. As I said earlier on, I mean, he came up to me when I first got there, and he just flat out said, nobody's going to touch you here. And the way he said it, I believed him. And you know what? Nobody ever did bother me. When I had Clark Gillies, and obviously Dwayne Sutter was also had his own toughness, and a few other guys could go on that team. So you know what? It just allowed me to play my game and to know, exactly, who he was and how he played the game. And, I'm a left-hand shot, so I usually pass to my right side, but I made special effort to pass it to him for obvious reasons. And, but he would, he would tell me, just dump it in the corner, Butch, I'll take care of business in the corner. You get in the slot area, wherever you want to be. And, I'll work the corners. You don't have to go in the corner. So that, that was nice because, there's not a lot of good things happening in the corner for me. So I was pretty happy when he felt he could make his living in the corner.
Hey, Butch, to go back to that first run, again, for the fans now, I mean, it was a long time ago, but that Islander team had been moving slowly up the ladder. They had a great run in '75 to the Final Four that year. They had some hard losses between that run and when they eventually won the Stanley Cup in 1980. And in that day, the game was a lot different, as you know. That second round series against the Boston Bruins, the big bad Bruins, they were looking to push the Islanders around, just like the Toronto Maple Leafs had done a couple of seasons earlier in the playoffs. How important was it? Relate that to the fan today. How important was it for guys like Clark Gillies and Bob Nystrom to step up to that challenge physically against some pretty tough customers in Boston?
It really was. And EJ, I'm not sure I can put it into words because intimidation was huge, in the 70s and certainly in the early 80s. And we don't see that same level of intimidation in today's game. But, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, when you have a team that was not winning on the scoreboard and had to, let's try something else. And fighting was a tactic that a lot of different teams used at that time. And the Flyers were another one that would try to intimidate you. And I know Bobby Nystrom and Gary Howard and Clark Gillies and might have been even Gordy Lane. I mean, I know they got together and they said there's no way that they're going to push us out of the building, because you're right. They had got pushed out of the building with the Toronto Maple Leafs earlier on in the playoffs and a couple of years earlier. So they were prepared to do what they needed to do. And again, for guys like myself that just wanted to play the game and not worry about someone jumping me and or high sticking me or spearing me, it was huge because it just allowed me to be who I wanted to be. And same for Mike Bossy, just to go and play his game and know when it comes, we got people that are not going to back away and are going to do very well. And that's exactly what happened. And Boston, after that basically that bench clearing brawl, I mean, they went, well, that doesn't work. Now what do we do? So it was huge, EJ. Very, very big part of the game.
And finally, Butch, I'll just ask you another question about Clark, the man, because he was a unique guy, as you've already talked about. He was somebody that was the life of parties and could do so many things. I heard he used to sing, and Brian Trottier used to play the guitar. How good a singer was Clark Gillies? I heard he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was pretty good. He could carry a tune. We did a benefit back in '81 or '82, and and he sang a couple of songs. He sang The Gambler. He loved to do The Gambler, and that's probably what he was. Really, was a gambler. The way he lived his life. And he could sing. There's no doubt about it. And that was a fun night. But Brian Trottier plays the guitar. He also sings, and so does John Tonelli. And John does Elvis impressions. So we had a fun group of guys that had no problems with expressing themselves, EJ. And that was the beauty of Clark, is that he would get up in front of 5,000 people, and he would tell a joke, or he would sing, and he just had such a wonderful personality, and as soon as you got to know him, or you got to talk to him, you just felt really, really warm all over, because he was just such a good human being.
Well, Butch, thanks so much for the time today and talking about your former teammate and your good friend. You were on the air Friday night when this news broke on MSG. The Islanders were playing, and I thought you and Shannon Hogan in a very difficult spot. In particular for you, I think you handled it so well and so professionally. So congratulations on that. We wish you nothing but the best. I look forward to seeing you at the rink, my friend.
Thanks a lot, EJ. Anytime. And, let's hope the Islanders can start winning a few more games.
Butch Goring, the television analyst for the New York Islanders and a 4-time Stanley Cup champion, talking about his friend and teammate Clark Gillies, who left us way too soon on Friday. He was 67.